Bright Cutie. Every student matters.
Hello students. Now let's talk about Hitler as dictator of Germany. Now before this, we were talking about rise of Hitler, right students? And in that topic, you have learned a lot of new points. So when we were talking about the Nazi party, that stands for National Socialism, correct? We saw that Hitler, he gained power in this party. Now he became a popular leader, and afterwards, let's say it was during this period of 1930s, right, when the Great Depression, it started in USA and it spread to some other parts of Europe as well, right students? So we saw that before 1930, let's say 1920s, 22, Nazism, it did not have a large popular support, right? But it was only after the Great Depression when the situation in Germany was quite harsh, quite bad, right? So the people, they needed an alternative option. They needed to believe in someone who could improve their conditions. The way the things were happening in Germany was not in the favor of common people, right? So we see that in 1930s, Nazism, now it becomes a mass movement. We also saw how Hitler, he was a great orator, right? He knew how to play with the sentiments, how to appeal, let's say, how to appeal to the sentiments of common people, right? So we saw that he promised a lot of things to these German people, be it about building a strong nation, that is Germany. Apart from that, undo the injustice that they had to face through this Treaty of Versailles, right? Also helping the youth in getting employment and improving the condition of common people. Okay, so these were some of the points that we learned in our last topic. But we ended with this part that in the year 1933, to be very precise, on 30th January 1933, we see that President Hindenburg, he made Hitler the Chancellor of Germany. Why? Because it was the largest party in Germany by 1932, right? So he was by default made the Chancellor in Germany. Now, when he became the Chancellor, who? Adolf Hitler. He wanted to gain complete control of Germany. So now what is he doing in order to get complete control? In short, what was he doing in order to become the dictator of Germany? So in this topic, we are going to understand how Hitler, he became the dictator of Germany. Okay? So, after coming to power, Hitler set about consolidating his rule. Yes, now he started consolidating his rule, acquiring these different areas here. But before acquiring these different areas, now he was appealing to the mass sentiments here. Now he persuaded Hindenburg to dissolve the Reichstag and hold another elections on March 5, 1933. Now what was happening at this point of time? We see that since he wanted to consolidate his rule in Germany, so he persuaded Hindenburg to dissolve the Reichstag. Okay? Now, do you remember what is this Reichstag, student? Yes, it was the German Parliament. The name of the German Parliament, the building in Berlin. Right, students? So, after dissolving the Reichstag, he wanted to hold another elections on March 5, 1933 in order to gain complete control over Germany. But before the election only, what are we seeing here? What is happening? So on 27th February 1933, the Reichstag building was set on fire. Now imagine this condition here, that look at this image. This is the Reichstag building here when we are talking about the year 1933. And on 27th February 1933, we are seeing that the whole building was set on fire. Now imagine that elections are going to be held and now the building has been set on fire. who was responsible for this? So there was a common belief that this doing was of Hitler and he wanted to put the blame on the communists. Now historians have different beliefs over it, but there is this common accepted belief here that it was the doing of Hitler setting Reichstag on fire. Now what is he going to gain from this? Because of this, by blaming the communists over this issue, he could remove all the communists. Again, they were the enemies of the right wing here. Right, students? They were from the left wing, and here Hitler, he was from this right wing, the Nazi party. Right? So, he wanted to remove all the communists from the German parliament as well as send them to jail because of the act that they had done, presumably. Right here? So, these were the two gains that he could get from this event here. So what happened eventually? So here we see that finally the fire decree of 28 February 1933 was passed. So Hindenburg, he had to pass this fire decree of 28 February 1933. And because of this, what happened? All the civil rights, they were suspended. Now, do you remember the article that we had talked about when we were reading about the Weimar Republic? That was Article 48, correct? So, here what was happening? The president, he used that power, he suspended the civil rights. Now, by suspending the civil rights, what does that mean? It means that there was the state of emergency in Germany. Okay? Now, it means that freedom of speech, that was totally suspended. Assembly of people in groups, that was totally suspended. It means that people, they could not move freely from one place to another and they could not form these groups. That happens in our country as well, right? Apart from that, press, it was also suspended. The freedom of press, it was suspended during this period, right? Now, he also turned against the communists who were sent to the concentration camps. Yes, students. Now, when we are talking about Hitler, when we are talking about Nazi rule here, concentration camps is something that you must have heard about. And in fact, if you would have watched any movies based on the life of Hitler or the Nazi rule in Germany, you must have seen the concentration camps. Now, what are these concentration camps, students? Now, these are the areas in which all these communists, the Jews, all the people who stood against Hitler, they were put in these small, big, not small, but big camps, right? They were kept as political prisoners. They could be political prisoners, they could be the Jews, right? The communist people, the socialists, Democrats, whoever stood against Hitler, they were put here in the concentration camps. But we see mostly that the Jews were kept in these concentration camps and they were living here in terrible conditions. Everywhere the camp was surrounded by this barbed wire, right? And also here they were eliminated, mass elimination of people. It means that they were killed in groups here, right? So it was very worse condition. If you get a chance to watch any movie related to the life of Hitler, you must watch how the situation was there in Germany during his rule and specifically related to the concentration camps, right? So here we see that these communists, they were also sent to the concentration camps, right? So this was a win-win situation for whom? It was a win-win situation for Hitler, that all these people who were his rivals, they were now sent to these camps, right? And there was no one who could question his authority. So this fire that we are talking about, the Reichstag fire that we are talking about, students, it led to the way, or it led to this condition where Hitler, he became the dictator of Germany. Now let us see what happened after that. So it was on 23rd March 1933 that Enabling Act was passed. Now what is this Enabling Act? Firstly, we see that this fire decree was passed on 28th February 1933, suspending the civil rights of all the people in Germany. Now, through this enabling act, we see that Hitler, now he becomes the dictator of Germany. This act is really important. But what was in this act? So it established dictatorship in Germany. Dictatorship, what does that mean? You have already learned in political science. So, rule of single party or a single person, right? So here single person that we are talking about, he is Hitler, and the party that we are talking about, it is the Nazi party, right? So it means that it gave Hitler all the powers to sideline the parliament and rule by decree. Now, according to this enabling act of 1933, what is happening in Germany? Hitler, firstly, he becomes the dictator. Secondly, he was no more responsible for asking or going to or consulting the German parliament. So all the decisions, all the laws could be made without consulting or without the consent of German parliament. It means that the sole right was in whose hands? The sole right was in the hands of Hitler, and he was ruling this whole party, that is the Nazi party. So this is how dictatorship comes here in Germany, right? And all the political parties and trade unions, they were banned except for the Nazi party and its affiliates. Yes, students. Those who were supporting the Nazi party, they were having a good time here in Germany. But those who were not supporting the Nazi party, all those people, they were kept as prisoners in these concentration camps. All the trade unions, they were banned. All the political parties, they were banned. Now, this was the start of the rule of this dictator that we have been talking about, Adolf Hitler. Okay, students? So, keep that in mind here. Now, you remember one thing, when we were talking about the rise of Hitler, we saw that he got the support of German army as well, right? So, here we see that when he became the dictator, he set up his own army there. He had set up his own army, right? And they were really powerful. The police who were working under Hitler, they were very much powerful. And they created this terror in Germany that people were quite afraid of this Nazi party and their rule. Now let us see what were the actions taken by Hitler just after becoming the dictator. So special surveillance and security forces were created to control and order society. In order to see the law and order of this country here that we are talking about, that is Germany, we see that special surveillance and security forces, they were created, right, to make themselves more powerful here. So these included the Gestapo. Now the terms that you are going to read right now, these are really important. So the first one here is Gestapo. Gestapo, what does that mean? So it means that we are talking about the secret state police, right, who is doing all the dirty work under Hitler's rule, right? So sending people in the concentration camps, beating them up, arresting them. So all these things, they were done by them, spying on the common people. Then the SS, they were the protection squads. Then the criminal police and the security service. Security service here, the short form is SD. And along with the SA, that is storm troopers. Now the term SA here in German language, what does that mean? It means Sturmabteilung. Okay, students, SA here it means Sturmabteilung, which means storm troopers. Now all these people, right, all these forces here, they were controlling the law and order in Germany, right? So this made Hitler much more powerful. They had the full right to exploit the German people. Now when we are talking about the German people and the exploitation, it directly connects or links with the Jews and other colored people who were, according to Hitler, they were not the pure race, right? We already have talked about the Nazi ideology. We know that Hitler, he believed that Germans, they are from this Aryan race, and these people, the Jews and other colored people, they were not the pure race, and therefore they should be exterminated, right? So these were the terms and things that were done, mass execution that was done under Hitler's rule in concentration camps. Okay. Now, because of all this, because of these special surveillance and security forces, now Nazi state, it became the most dreaded criminal state. Yes, since they had this full power to exploit anyone, to arrest anyone, to send them to concentration camp, right? So it became the most dreaded criminal state here, right? So this was the status of Germany under Hitler's rule. Now those who were against Hitler, they were detained in Gestapo torture chambers, rounded up, and they were sent to the concentration camps. Yes, students. Ultimately, everyone who was opposing Adolf Hitler, they were sent to these concentration camps, the areas where they were kept as prisoners in very terrible conditions. They were surrounded by barbed wires. They were not given food to eat, and also they had to face this mass execution there. So different terms were here used in Germany during this period, right? To kill all the people, right? Extermination of all the people here, especially Jews, right? And I've already told you, you can watch some movies based on the history that you're reading right now of Hitler. Now, as you can see in this image, all the communists, they were being arrested by the Gestapos here, right? And they were collectively, they were sent to the concentration camps. So this was all about Hitler becoming the dictator of Germany. Now, moving to the question part here, let's have a look at these questions. So the first question here is, choose the wrong pair. Options are A, that is SA, Stormtroopers, Gestapo, Secret State Police, SS, Protection Squads, and the last one here is SD, that is Secret Dictator. Now, what according to you should be the wrong option here, the wrong pair? Correct, students, it is D, that is SD. Now, SD here, Secret Dictator. Do you think this is the correct answer? No. So, all these options here, these are correct. SA, Sturmabteilung, like I told you, Stormtroopers, Gestapo, Secret State Police, and SS, this is the Protection Squads. Okay. Now, the second question here, which act gave Hitler complete power in Germany, and when was this act passed? Do you remember the name of the act? We just have read right now. Yes, it was the Enabling Act. And when was this act passed? 23rd March 1933. The act was passed on 23rd March 1933. So this is your complete answer. The next question is, who was the Gestapo? Now what are you going to answer in this? Gestapos were the secret state police appointed by Hitler to control and order the society. To control the order or to maintain the order in the society. Okay, so this should be your complete answer to this question. The next question is, describe the special surveillance and security forces created to control state in Nazi Germany. Now, do you remember this part here, students? Yes, we have learnt about it. We saw that special surveillance and security forces, they were created after Hitler became the dictator. Here you have to talk about SA, that is the Stormtroopers. Then you have to talk about Gestapo, Secret State Police. Then you have to talk about SS, the Protection Squad. Right? Then you have to talk about the SD here. Now here students, you already have learnt about this part. Moving to this part, security service, criminal police, right? So you have to mention about them, and it made Nazi the most dreaded criminal state, right? So this is how you have to answer this question. Now the next question is, how did the Enabling Act make Hitler a dictator? Now how are you going to answer this question? Yes, now you know that the Enabling Act was passed on 23rd March 1933, correct? And how did it make him the dictator? Now, according to this Enabling Act, what was happening? So, Hitler had the full authority to sideline the parliament, the German parliament, Reichstag that we are talking about, after sending the communists to the concentration camp, right? So therefore there was no one to challenge his rule here. So he had the whole authority to sideline the parliament and pass the decree that we are talking about, or make the laws. This made him the dictator of Germany, right? Only when he had the full authority, he gained this whole control, complete absolute control of the state, and he had this authority to sideline the parliament and pass the decree, right, to make any laws. So this made him the dictator of Germany. This is how this Enabling Act gave him the full authority, right? So you have to answer your question like this in this question here.